I'm Jamie O'Kane, CPA, Small Business Advanced Tax Planning and Compliance Extraordinaire, and this is the Abundant Beans Podcast, the podcast that takes my love for learning what makes people tick while digging into the good, bad, and ugly of small business ownership. We strive to give you the insight that only those in the trenches of being and working with entrepreneurs can provide. All right. Today on the podcast, we have Brandi Bernoskie. Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Brandi is a digital strategist, website developer, and founder of Alchemy and AIM. That is not a word I say very easily. And North Star Sites, companies that help entrepreneurs and business owners elevate their online presence and enhance their digital experience. She's an advocate for using technology in ways that humanize, connect, and serve people, as well as for asking deeper philosophical questions and teaching others to think more broadly about impact on what they create, particularly in the STEAM fields. Brandi is a natural connector and business matchmaker who is always working to help others step into their genius work and leverage the experience of those around them to achieve new levels of success and community along the way. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
We're excited to have you.
Yeah.
First question first. It's always the same. What was your first job?
My very first job, besides like babysitter, I was actually working for a Broadway promoter. Like I managed to get this job when I was 14. I was actually in a play with a friend of mine who had the job prior to me, and she passed it to me. So, honestly, not very glamorous. I was working at her home, and I would get to do things like call companies about tickets and like newspapers and place ads at 14, which is crazy. But then I'd also do like super glamorous things like fold socks. So it was a little bit of everything.
Super glamorous things.
It was assistant to Broadway promoter. But it was, it's certainly, I was heavily involved in theater at the time. So it was a kind of a great look into just another marketing aspect of the theater world that I had never been exposed to before.
That's really interesting. How does that translate to what you do now?
I don't know if it directly translates to what I do now. Seriously, like there's the connection between being in marketing now, doing websites and then having been in marketing then. But I do think it taught me at a very early age how to get comfortable talking to people who were older than me or just in different life circumstances than me. I was a very, very shy kid. So being pushed outside of my normal comfort zone, especially getting on like it wasn't even a cold call. Like they knew who the promoter was. It was really just her office calling their office. But it was a little nerve-wracking at the time. So it definitely just kind of got me into like the flow of doing it a little afraid.
Yeah. And us introverts, we're always afraid when we have to pick up the
phone. Yeah.
Forever and always. Every single
exactly.
time. I know people are like, are you going to call the IRS for me? And I'm like, yeah, maybe Friday. I don't really know.
Can I put it off a few days?
But usually it's like, well, I know I'm going to be on hold for 12 hours. So it's like, when do I have a block of time to actually sit on hold? So give us the cliff notes on your career journey.
So it's a little windy. I went and got a bachelor's of fine arts in theater from NYU, minored in physics and math, got another bachelor's thereafter in physics, philosophy, and religion, started blogging during my time at Rutgers University. And it was during that time blogging that I started teaching myself to code and went into a PhD program for philosophy of science. Decided to drop out of the PhD program, did some work at a nonprofit doing earth science education for NASA, was coding secretly on the side all along the way, and finally realized that I had just enough work with the website development piece to actually do it freelance. And as much as I loved doing the earth science work and like really felt that there was a lot of value around that, being in a office all day and it's particularly for me being at a metal desk, like there was something that was very non-organic about the environment and I just needed to get out. So I just eventually realized like I had just enough skills to make it as a freelancer and quit my job, started my business. I didn't even know you needed things like a business license when you started a business.
Most people
But
don't.
no, they don't. But, did it and learned a lot along the way. And so I started that about, 8 years ago now as a freelancer, and have had a team for the last 6 years or so.
That's awesome. I love it. So I want to talk about, we can talk about websites and, why people need websites. But I think most importantly is, what are the biggest opportunities business owners are missing online?
I really think that if you are not putting yourself really out there, you are missing a huge opportunity to connect with people. And I think we want that more now than ever before. The more the brand founder has a story and that story's out there, the more human a brand is, the more we want to do business with them. And that doesn't mean that you have to show every aspect of your life online. It simply means that you need to show up as a human being interacting with other real human beings. Like these are real human beings. They're not data points.
Right.
And I think treating people like real human beings and crafting an experience for them as human beings is essential. And I think if you're trying to do something different than that, you are missing a real opportunity to build relationships, not just like get transactions from people, but actually to build long-lasting relationships where people will always drive back to you, no matter whether it's, you've got a brick and mortar store or you're online for a period of time or whatever. When they form that relationship with a company they love, they will come back over and over again, and they will refer you to beyond, really. So
yeah, it's interesting. We just did a whole new website for our business, or we put the website and the podcast and the firm together, and they were not together before. And trying to create an accounting firm website that doesn't look like an accounting firm website was, well, the bar's low. So let's start there.
Yeah, it is with accounting firms. Yes.
But there's a lot of default, right? So there's a lot of default to, talking about taxes, or there's a lot of default to doing, in-person video instead of on our website, we have an animated video. And they were like, but you're an accounting firm, we should do, in person. And I'm like, no, I want to do whatever is opposite of what's expected, right? For a purpose, but the big thing being we're not your normal accounting firm. Therefore, I don't want to look like a normal accounting firm. But it's still hard to how do you help people be more, it's really about being authentic, right?
Yeah.
And being okay with being authentic. I think people have a hard time not putting up their their best face, or fronting, or trying to be more professional than they probably are in real life.
Yeah.
So how do you coach people through that? It's just really, it's an
I
interesting.
think it is. And I think it's a lot about getting to the core of who they are, and just reminding them that they don't have to do things the way that other people have done them. And sometimes it's more, you're going to have sometimes more success in being the outlier and being the oddball out there than you are following the rest of the pack in what you do. Yeah. And so I very often, one of the biggest places it comes up with is social media. So I've got people who come to me and they're like, okay, and then I need an Instagram feed and this and this and this. And I'm like, to just check in, are you actually on all of these social media channels? And they're like, well, no, but that's where I have to be. That's the way I've been told. And the reality is that you don't have to do anything the way someone else has done it. And it is so much more important. And frankly, I think it serves for your business's growth and scale and success if you are doing things that you enjoy, that align with who you are, that align with where you want to be, more so than just doing it the way that this other person in your industry has also done it. Does not have to happen. You are you. I've been told so many times in the past, they're like, oh, but if you're starting out a website, then you need to have a virtual free offer that people opt into, and then you nurture them on your newsletter list. And I'm like, actually, I personally am so much more of a relationships person. I want to nurture them on email, like direct emails for me, like for me to an individual person. I'm back again. Like, I want to know that person. I want to be friendly with them. I want to know what their struggles are. Like, I want to nurture relationships like that, not in a mass way. I'm not saying emailing is e-newsletters are bad things. They're great things. But personally, I just have chosen, up to this point to work on like my networking and relationships in a different way. Doesn't mean I won't add in future pieces as I am so called to do. But I feel like people start to put too much on them at the beginning. And sometimes it's just in the process of the website, it's just checking in with them of like, is this really working for you? And is it giving you energy, or is it taking energy away from you?
That's so
I think
huge.
that's the best check as a business owner of like, is something really working or not? Because if it's draining you, it's probably a drain on the finances too, in some way, shape, or form.
Totally. Or, it's when we're doing things that like we don't really want to be doing, like it's an energy drain too. So you're not, whatever you need to do next or whatever. Like, I love podcasting. I love doing this, but I also realize that this is not my default behavior. My default behavior is not to be out in the world like this. And so I have to build in time to recover.
Yeah.
Or like ways to take care of myself so I can continue to do this. I love it, but it still takes my energy, and it can be both.
Yeah, it can be both.
It can be both. But I give this podcast my energy because I love doing it, but that doesn't mean it's the best energy, the easiest way for me to expend energy, because it's not. I love talking to people. I love getting to know their stories. I love putting this out into the world for people, but that doesn't mean I'm hopping up on Twitter and I'm going to go do some lives. Like, it's just not going to happen. I know somebody for the longest time, we kept talking about TikTok. You need to be on TikTok, start TikTok. I literally downloaded TikTok, watched a couple of things, and I was like, I can't. No. I podcast. This is what I do. It's just this is the thing. This is it.
I think you've got to know what you do, but I also think, you need to be willing to experiment a little bit to discover if there's something out there for you. So it's like, exactly, being willing to at least download TikTok, check it out, feel out the water a little bit before, if it's a full, no, go with that. Like, you don't have to like really twist your arm 17 times to make yourself do it.
An amazing, a friend of mine, he does TikTok videos. He's a tax professional and he does TikTok videos, and he is amazing at it. He is hilarious. He has like 2 or 3 characters he plays. Like, one of them, he puts the towel on his head. It is hilarious every single time. I watch his TikTok because he's hilarious and he's accurate, but it just makes me laugh. But I'm just like, that's not me. Like, like, this is what he does. And I admire him for that, but he also has just stuck to video.
Yeah.
Like, he moved some stuff over to YouTube, but that's it. Like, he just like hopped platforms with what he was already doing. Right. And I was just like, that is how we do this. We pick kind of one thing, especially we're business owners. How much time do we have to be Instagramming and TikToking and LinkedIning and Twittering all at the same time?
Yeah. Oh, and don't forget, some people have families too that they have to worry about. So I was like, maybe you should give up Twitter and hang with the kids, like
maybe go to dinner, maybe make dinner, hang out, have dinner with the family.
Yeah, take a spa day too.
Oh, don't tease me right now, Brandi. It's the middle of tax season. That's just a tease. I'm actually taking some time off next week. It's my birthday next week, so
happy birthday.
Take a day off. I'm excited. So let's talk. I have all these questions because I did some and Emily did some, and we're everywhere. So let's talk about, so you said, humanizing. So we're talking about humanizing connections and creating a relationship. How do we do that digitally?
So I think it's kind of in the small, subtle ways. And it's really about how do they connect with you and what's the quality of the connection. So for example, I want to have really deep, meaningful conversations when I get on a call with someone. I don't want to ask them, do you have a current website? Do you like your current website? That can be handled by an intake form that they fill out before they get to me. So in that case, it's like looking at how can you leverage connection and like technology so that you're using the technology to gather data about the person, information about them, questions that they need to answer, so that you can then review those answers and have the more meaningful conversation.
So
Like
it's
that's like the
important.
simplest example I can think of. Like even one of my clients right now, he actually works with financial planners in the UK, and he has a program and a membership site. And we were talking about just adding a simple little like chat bot on his site. The goal of the chat bot really isn't anything beyond getting them to get on a call with him, getting some very basic information from them and getting them on a call with him so he can connect with them directly and find out exactly what's going through their heads. It's not about like, oh, you're going to have a fake conversation with someone. No, it's really just about utilizing a cute little piece of technology so that he can lead them to the real deep connection and that opportunity to spend time together. So I think it's out there, and it's like looking for those ways and understanding your customers and clients and how they're interacting with your content or searching, and taking that into consideration when you build.
I think that's really interesting. Yeah, it's funny. In the tax world, we get a lot of inquiries. I think all of us do. I know all of us do. And it's just like, okay, can you do my tax returns? And we're all just like, I don't know. What do you got? And then asking it like, and I always like, I tell my mentors, like, don't trust what the client says, because they're always going to say their returns are easy. Then why aren't you doing them yourself? Question one. But they don't know what they don't know about what they have, right? Our code is so complex that they just don't know what they don't know about what they have. So, like I'm never going to ask a client, so how would you like difficulty rank your own tax return?
Yeah.
Like
no one would ever be able to answer that.
Right. That would be like you asking somebody like, how good are you at coding?
Yep.
Zero at all. So, trying to get some information from people so we can actually have, and I love that those deeper conversations, we actually do paid discovery calls for lots of reasons, but the big one is I want people to upload their tax returns for me so I can actually see what's going on, so I can actually find solutions tax-wise for them. And it's a hard sell. It's really interesting. So, but I'm always like, okay, well, upload or don't.
And that's exactly the thing. It's just like, and again, even the technology that you're using for them to upload it, like that leverages that ability to then look at the data, better connect with them and be like, hey, here's what's really going on.
Yeah. And it's that real-time sharing. I mean, we use mostly cloud-based apps for lots of reasons, but the big reason is it's real time.
Yep.
You can upload stuff to me. You don't have to mail it.
All the changes in the world.
I know, it's crazy. And then we can do things on Zoom call. Like I can finish your tax return and then like talk to you in like 5 minutes.
Yep.
And it'll be fresh. And then I can make changes in real time and send it over for you to sign. Like you don't have to come in. You don't have to get in a car. You don't have to drive across town. You don't have to drive across the country. Come see me. We can do all those like rote tasks.
Yep.
Easily by just clicking links. Which
exactly.
I love. Not everybody loves that, but I love it because it just takes, the work out of it. I had to send back a return of some items today and I didn't have tape to put the label on. And so I had to go get tape to put the label on.
Yep.
And I was like, services are so much better. I could just click a link and pay or get refunded or whatever. It's crazy. So what's the difference between a digital experience and a digital presence?
So digital presence is what most people think they need, which is just like, if I put a website up, everyone will show up. And like,
if I hang a shingle.
Yeah, really. Like I'll build it and people will magically show. And I just need to throw up some information about what I'm offering. And the reality is that we are so much more advanced than that at this point. That worked 10 years ago really well.
It did.
Today, it really is, we're looking for the people, the companies, the websites that make us feel like we're engaging with them in some way, shape, or form, that are crafting an experience. So it's about, I always think of digital experience as like, how do you bring yourself into the digital world so that people get some sort of like piece of you there? Even, I mean, it can be as simple as the writing, having a funny 404 page. If you're a funny person, if you are a dry, sarcastic, humorous, sort of person in that way, make the 404 page that. And if, you're witty and, want to give them a different taste, like it really just is about bringing yourself to the site and finding those little ways that you can inject a little bit of the unexpected into the way people are interacting with their website. So they begin to feel like they're having this experience of not just your offering or, your company, but of you as well. And that obviously differs depending on how big your brand is and how big the company is. But I feel like even when you get to these larger companies, there's still kind of like a company persona almost with it, that like, there's going to be a way you talk to people in a way that you care for them. And I think that's what we're looking for, is not just people who are slapping up their services, but someone who, like, people and companies who are guiding us through a process. And they say, I've got you. Here are the steps we're going to go on together. And it's going to get you to this point when we're done working together. That's what we want. And that's what we're buying.
Right.
We're not buying the product. We're buying the result.
You had me thinking of, I did the skincare website the other day. Like it asks you all these different questions, and it's gathering data as it goes, like location and things like that. Right. Cause it's putting it's like formulating based on where you live and what kind of water you have and all of that. So you just had me thinking of like, how do we, like how, I always think those are fun, like the quiz ones.
Yeah.
It's like, here, let's find the best solution for you or the best experience for you, or, whatever you
exactly.
At the end, they're going to want your email, right? And they're going to send you a coupon.
Yep.
And then you can order the stuff.
Exactly. And they're guiding you through an experience, and you're going to get like, the experience you're taken through, even online, is going to translate to what arrives at your door.
Right.
Too. It would be horrifying if you had this glorious online experience and then you got this like mangled package, that had like, that kind of like looked like it came from, I don't even know, some sort of like foreign country,
it got lost tape in the USPS for the last 6 months.
It somehow just like magically traveled the world and then, years later arrived at your door. Like, you want that experience to be coherent from whether it's, in person with packaging or a delivery or anything like that to the online piece. It's just, it needs to extend in all directions these days.
You got my wheels turning over here. I now want to create an estimated tax savings bot.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I totally want to do that. Because I can guess on some of that stuff, like some of that, like there's kind of a range. So actually totally want to do that on the website, because I think that would be super helpful, because we do things differently. We do tax planning first, and that's just so different, and a different way to interact with your CPA, like to begin with, or like to start the relationship. So, actually giving people some like idea up front of how much we can save them, and then like really getting like to the nitty gritty on the back end. Because I've been trying to figure out like, how do we, what do we create so that people can kind of do some of this upfront work that I do, like they can divide for me, like, they can do some of this, and then the conversation on the back end will be so much better because they've already kind of seen those words or understood the words, or, it's something that we've already kind of introduced to them potentially.
Absolutely.
So I've been like kicking that around forever, but now, this is what we're doing. My poor web designer, she's gonna be so mad at me. All right. So can we do a quiz?
Yeah, of course you can.
Like, I guess I'll figure out how to make that work. But I just love that. Yeah, I think like there's this other website I ordered from the other day, and like their website, like it's athletic wear, because that's all I order anymore. like the colors don't change. Like you click on another
Yeah.
color and then you have to wait 5 minutes.
You don't know if you've actually clicked on it. Like, do you need to click again? But then
Yeah.
if you click again, it's just going to start reloading from the start again. Yeah. There's like no interactive features. And again, bad experience. Like that's just bad user experience. Forget about like digital experience overall. Like that's just like, hey, you forgot. We need to know if we've actually been successful.
Yeah. Or if you have a product and it doesn't actually, you can't actually filter things. That drives me absolutely crazy. Like,
I'll just look through the 400 pages of t-shirts that you have.
I know.
Surely.
It's like, can I buy size? Please?
Yeah.
Color? Category? Anything would be great.
I have to say, I think filters are essential on so many websites today. I mean, e-commerce, yes, unless you have a very, very small e-commerce shop. But I even love it on like, you know, content too.
I was going to say like blogs, podcasts.
Because it kind of gives people some parameters of like, oh, here's what's possible. Here's what's potentially, you know, been written and what this is about. But lets you get down to kind of like really what you're looking for in a way that sometimes attempting to type in single or even, you know, more than one search term doesn't always allow you to do.
Especially if we're like not sure what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking for somebody that maybe talks about like websites. Is that websites or is it marketing or is it advertising or what do we, how do I,
how do I get filter?
How do I get to that thing? Right. That's really interesting. I was just like, sometimes I'll just be like, okay, website. Well, apparently you and I can't be friends and I can't buy things from you because I don't know how to.
It's too much work on your behalf as a
customer. Especially if it's on mobile.
Yeah.
Like I shop on mobile. Most people do, I think, anymore. Because that's where I am when I'm in the Facebook. And then the Facebook takes me to the things. And then your website sucks. And I'm like, you're going to make me go to an actual computer. But then if I do that, I'm going to start working again. So I'm not doing that. And yeah, I think and I think especially as people like really do work from home more, you know, our personal spaces and our business spaces are really similar. So if your website or if your mobile's not working, people are not going to buy from you because they don't want to go to the actual computer because there's work there.
Exactly. and well, you also just want to be done with the computer when you're done with the computer. Like there's also mental separation that you need if you are working from home. I certainly need it. Honestly, once I'm done, I don't even want to be on any device, let alone my phone. So if you've got it, when you've got someone, you've got to make sure you have them and that it works easily for them.
Love it. Sorry. Oh man. All right. I want to talk about how, especially in my industry, this is a huge conversation, you know, how we move the in-person interactions to digital. I mean, we kind of talked about some of those things. But in industries where like people are really like used to just like sitting down and having their tax returns done. I've never done it that way, but a lot of the people in my industry do that way. You know, what are the key pieces in making sure it's still personal and it's still relationship based?
I mean, I still like easiest thing, honestly, is to actually see people's faces, to like be on video with them. And I like Zoom has been one of my favorite tools. I don't get paid by them or anything, but like they really have been one of my favorite tools to be able to interact with people, show people things. There's other tools out there that are really interesting and cool to use as well. But I think just honestly, like first thing is just actually having face-to-face conversation, not using just a call networking system that only allows you to look at documents and, you know, little avatars, but actually to be seeing people's faces and seeing their reactions. I also think that's what allows you to be more emotive and empathetic, you know, with people, like to really connect with them in a different way. And then, just showcase that stuff. And I think it's just, again, like there too, it's even crafting the experience of like, the reminders they get, like the little, like, you know, subtle, like, hey there, like however it is that you talk and you interact with people, that goes into those reminders. that goes into, the presentation, that goes into the background even, so that you're really showing who you are and how you're supporting them in every little piece of things that you do. Like, what's the follow-up? I think even more important sometimes than the reminders are the follow-ups that we have. And like, just making sure that it's not some sort of automated mess, but that it's got some level of personality to it.
So my all caps action required.
Sometimes those are necessary.
It's actually funny. So we actually started, and we've always like sent our clients their tax returns and been like, okay, look over and like prove it for us. But this year I've started doing reviews with our clients. We just set up half hour. We do it. And a couple of my clients are like, wow, that was like the funnest time I've ever had being told I owe taxes. And I'm like, well, you already knew you owe taxes. And they're like, well, yeah I did know because we already told you this. But I was just laughing. I was like, well, I'm glad I can, make it as fun as possible.
Yep.
You get to come hang out with me for a half hour and we'll talk about tax stuff. That was just like, yeah, we're just here to hang out with you. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, that's the whole purpose. And then I get to like learn what's going on with their businesses or if there's anything else they need. And it's been a really good way for us to just really kind of check in with our clients. Like they will come to us with questions because that's how we roll, but to just be like, have you thought about this? What about that? What about, what's going on with this, that, and the other thing? And they'll be like, oh, well, I meant to do that. Or maybe I really should look into that. Or, because we're dealing with PPP loans and, just a bunch of other programs right now that are potential, cash for our clients to help them continue to survive. And, when I get to sit down and have these conversations with them, then it's, they're like, oh, maybe I really should. I was kind of thinking about that, so again, it's just like, how do we help them better? And a lot of it is that face-to-face Zoom calls. I love Zoom calls.
And I think you have to be curious with people.
Yeah, definitely. Like, what's going on? How are things going? Yeah. And that's just it too, is I usually come into these conversations like, okay, we're going to talk for 20 minutes and then I'm going to show you your tax return and then we're out.
Yep.
But it's just a really good way to check in. We use Loom also. I'll do a Loom.
Oh, I use a lot of Loom. Yeah, I love it.
We do a lot of Loom. Just to, we use it to walk through processes or to kind of teach each other how to do stuff, but we also do it client facing. Yeah. But like, here's how you do this.
Yeah. Just like little clarifications go so far when you're showing on video. And again, like on Loom too, I love that you can have your little face, like your video actually of you saying these things to them. So again, it feels automatically more personal than just, an email with screenshots or even just a standard video. Like I sometimes, if I'm not in the mood to put my video up, I'll just put like my like little photo there just so they're talking. I'm a real human being and I care about them. And like, I do this because I do care about them and their business.
Yeah. My web designer likes to send these like 20-minute Looms though. She's like, okay.
Oh, no.
She's like, here's the TRDL. I'm like, thank you. She's like, I know you just want to make decisions. And then so I'll just like fast forward to the parts. I love her dearly, but I just fast forward to the parts where I'm like, where do I need to make a session? Okay, like right there. Yeah. Or am I just like, can we just make an appointment and I could just, I could just move on. But yeah, we'll do Looms, to walk through tax returns or like if something's not right or like we're trying to teach them something, or we're walking through something and somebody else needs to watch it later. It's so powerful. I'm super visual. Like if you give me the audio and the visual, then generally I can like figure out what needs to happen. And I think a lot of people are like that too, especially when we're talking about like accounting concepts or how to do stuff in QuickBooks or whatever. It's like, let me show you. And then you can listen to me ramble on the back end. But it saves a lot of questions a lot of the time too, or clarifications needed because like they can watch me do it as many times as they need to, or watch us do it however many times they need to. Go ahead.
Yeah. My general rule of thumb with Loom though, I would say is that it shouldn't be over 5 minutes unless it's a process.
Yeah. Agreed.
If you're tempted to go over 5 minutes, it probably needs to be a meeting.
Totally.
Unless it's a process, like if it's something that someone needs to like go through again in the future, and yes, processes can be longer than 5 minutes, but otherwise I like super short ones that just like clarify the point that you need to clarify.
Yeah. Or it's just like, here's how you do this thing, this one thing, maybe two. But yeah, I try to keep them under, well, usually 10 minutes. Usually I'm like, wow, I talked a lot, and I'll cut like the ends off.
Spice it down.
Just spice it down just a little bit, which y'all can do in Loom. Did you know that?
That's a good Loom feature.
It's really easy.
There's lots of fun ones in there.
I know. I love Loom. And now they're doing captions too. Thank you. I'm all about captions. I watch all TV shows on captions because I'm trying to knit at the same time.
Yep.
I'm like trying to listen and watch and knit at the same time. And I was just like, thanks for the words. It just helps. All right. So let's talk about STEAM fields. What's missing from STEAM right now, and what needs to be happening with STEAM educations. And so STEAM is STEM with an A.
Yes.
Right. So
science, technology, engineer, arts, mathematics. And so they added the arts piece, which I think is really important. I think, obviously the best like science, technology, engineering, like the more technical it is, the more important it is, I think, for creativity to come into play, even when it comes to communication and things like that. So, I mean, first of all, I think communication should be added in. Like, I think communication is everything these days. And I remember my time.
People in the E, do we know that they're very bad communicators?
Yeah, it's learning how to discuss your ideas with other people, particularly people who are not in your field, is challenging. And I think it's a challenge that everyone should have to take as they're going into these fields, because it is just so crucial that you can actually articulate for the general population, like what your study is about and like what does it mean? Because people don't always know how to get out and dissect the information for themselves. So I think being able to really communicate the information. When I was doing my PhD work, I spent a lot of time thinking about like, how am I going to take the things I write and make them applicable for the general public so that there's interest being generated? That's apparently not what I was supposed to be thinking in a PhD program, it turns out, but there was more focus on like, here's the internal community within the university system. And but I was like, no, but I want to think about the general public, and like, I don't want to write a paper that is solely accessible by a handful of people who have studied this, for years. I want this to be something that's more accessible. And I think we really need to think beyond the fields we're in and like, what's the impact? So I've been a big believer in like, you need to think about the philosophical and really societal and like the impacts that your work is going to have. Yes, follow your curiosity, but understand where it may tie in with other fields, where it may be useful in a global perspective. And I think we're missing something when we remain siloed. It's one of the reasons I like that they added arts to, from STEM to STEAM, is because it makes it feel a little less siloed. And I think the less siloed you can be, the more impactful really that any work that you do in these fields is going to have. So it's just about bridging, really bridging between fields and then bridging to the general population as well, and making it something that they can grasp, really.
I think it's interesting, as somebody who is obviously good with math and data, who's very left-brained or right-brained. I don't even know which one it is anymore. It's all art though. Like, and that's the thing that like has really been kind of eye-opening to me, because I'm raising a boy and a girl, because there is a lot of like cultural, societal, like boys are good at math and engineering and girls are good at language arts. Like, it's all like problem solving. It's all like, you have to be creative and have data. Right. So, using both sides of my brain is where I excel, right? We do tax planning. Like, if that's not art, I don't know what is. Because we take data points in the tax code to somebody's goals and we create something that works for them. Right. So it's emotional, it's, based on data, like it's all these things. And that's when I'm working at my highest best, is when I can create things with my the things I know and the things where we want to go. Right. And so it is very interesting to me because it's all art is math.
Yeah,
right.
it is.
And so really just kind of changing the narrative around kind of the left brain, right brain stuff as well, because I'm sure engineers make emotional decisions. It's not always just math. I'm married to one. I know he does. So, they have to do gut feeling too, because they're taking their data and they're saying, this is not the right answer. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, marrying and kind of marinating all those things together is really, it's the new frontier of making sure that, also we can have some gender balance, some sex balance in these fields. My daughter goes to a STEM school. It's mostly boys.
Yeah. And most of my time in any math class, any physics class, even in philosophy, it was mostly men. I wasn't expecting that necessarily in philosophy, but almost every field I chose, with the exception of theater, it was me and mostly men. And I think, the visibility obviously of women in fields is really important, particularly in these technology STEM fields and things like that. But I think we also just have to blow up that whole lie that you're either left brained or right brained. Like, you actually got both and you utilize both. And there may be natural inclinations you have in certain areas or fields, but I guarantee you, if you have a natural inclination in an area, it's probably it's probably all integrated in a way that you haven't even been aware of yet. Because I'm in technology. We build websites, we code. I am one of the most creative problem solvers on the team when it comes to coding. Like, I'll be like, oh, but couldn't we do like this, this, and this? And like my team now they're better developers than I am, but they'll come back to me and they'll be like, yeah, that works. I would have never thought that, it's so obvious and so simple, but everyone was trying to solve it in a different manner. So we are utilizing that creative side of ourselves and that the communication that we have to provide in everything that we do, like no matter what field it is. And even if I have a friend who's a copywriter. You know how data driven her work is? It's phenomenally data driven. And I love that about her. Like, she's not just about writing the copy, it's about citing the right sources and making sure the right keywords are in there all of a sudden. There's so much more complexity than we sometimes allow people to see at the base level that, we're raised to see in school. And so we're dealt this lie that you're one or the other, or that, you're better with your left brain than your right brain, but it's just not the case. We just need to stop telling ourselves that lie and know that we are all integrated, and it serves us better when we see how integrated it is.
Yeah. It's really interesting. So people be like, you're really good at math. And I'm like, am I though? I just put beans in piles. Taxes are not really math. Like, they're really not. And accounting is not really math. I might use math to solve why the piles aren't the same, but it's not really math. But it actually was very interesting because I became a birth doula after I was an accountant for so many years, and people are always like, you're an accountant that's a birth doula? Like, those are totally different. And I was like, you'd be surprised. Yeah, it's really not that different, because it's data. It's asking people, trying to figure out what people's goals are and supporting them with the data.
Yes.
Plus their goals.
Exactly.
And how they make decisions. Right?
That's core.
They're pretty much the same. I'm not holding people's hands physically, or holding them up physically, here on the accounting end, like it was on the doula end. I said, but it's all really the same. It's very similar to walking business owners through things and understanding what they want and helping them to get there, and all of that. They're pretty much the same thing. It's just different sets of data. And so that's actually when I kind of went, oh, really not that different.
Yeah, no, it's really not. I think core of what we're all doing is we're supporting and guiding someone through some process somewhere, and trying to understand, where are they starting, where do they want to go, and help get them there.
Yeah. And how do we make the best impact on how to get them there? Yeah, it's huge. And that's been a big one for me too lately. It's just like, okay, well, how do we make an impact? How do we
Yes.
use what we know and what we're good at to positively impact people?
I think that's the best question we can be asking. And certainly the question that everyone in a STEAM field needs to be asking is just understanding the impact that they can have in those fields. Like what can be created. It's amazing.
Yeah. And then there's creativity in that, right? What is the problem? How do I solve it? Within our expertise. Awesome. Exactly. All right. Before I ask my last question, where is the best place for people to find you?
My website, alchemyandaim.com. Certainly, contact form goes straight to me. I would like to tell people that. And then also I am sometimes on Instagram at Brandi Bernoskie. That's my big, if you find me anywhere on social media, that's where it's going to be.
I love it. Not TikTok?
No, not TikTok. Not TikTok.
All right, Brandi. Well, you get on there, you tell me, and then
I will let you know.
You let me know.
It's unlikely.
All right. What is, so last question, what is the one thing a business owner needs to be doing with their website to make more connections?
I actually don't think it's necessarily what they should be doing with their website. I think it's what they should be doing with their time.
I love it.
Yeah. I'm going to say like the website is there kind of as a follow-up to the connections that you make in person. Mm-hmm. So just be aware that give people easy ways to connect with you on your website, like directly. So that if you've made a connection prior to that, like it's just part of the process. It just facilitates it really easily and elegantly. You don't want to hide how they should contact you or buy from you.
Love it. I'm going to go revamp my process. I'm all like stoked about this. I love this idea. Because we do it with skincare, which I think is just fabulous. Mm-hmm. It's like you get to tailor the things to you.
Yeah.
How do we do that with services? Like they're doing it, like we're doing it with products. How can we do that with services and like
you can do it to some degree?
Yeah. Change the interaction some.
Exactly.
From the get-go. I love this. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. This has been a fun chat.
Thank you so much for listening or watching. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, or wherever you prefer to listen. If you learned something and found some useful information to apply to your business today, please consider giving us a thumbs up and a review. Until next week, be abundant.